This is a Ryobi P300. It's a stapler nailer, brad nailer. Normally, this is one of the last tools I considered on my shopping list because normally I use the DeWalt nailer for the electric 18 gauge stuff. The thing I ran into is that DeWalt doesn't do staples. So and I think the brads on this are a little smaller than the 18 gauge, although it's really difficult to tell from the packaging. And the other thing that was a little bit tricky to tell is the codes on what staples it takes. So I'm using it with these I think it's, I don't know, TRA 70 whatever, these staples right here. Anyway, relatively standard stuff. Wanted to hold some tie back up. So, and we was gonna probably use it for some of the rest of this tar paper up here too, but what I ran into is not a very popular tool, not real good reviews online. So it was a little bit of a gamble, but save the receipt, see if I got to return it. So I initially thought, since it's one of the older blue body tools, it would work with the older NiCad batteries, although this battery's in virtually new condition. It was freshly charged. The thing I ran into is that when we are trying to get something into pretty standard OSB using this battery, I'm not getting full sinkage with the staples, and these are just the 1/2-inch staples, supposedly well within the capacity of this machine, but on fresh OSB it wasn't quite doing it. Now, and the other thing, it does take more power to do a staple than a brad, but with a P108 battery, you can see we get good solid sinkage on that. Now the control on this is a little tricky. I'm thinking it doesn't really bump fire. You got to hold it, let the little safety plunger hit, and then there's a little delay for pulling a trigger. So, you know, whether this is faster than other kind of a stapler, you know, the big squeezy staplers, it's a little faster, but it obviously it's less fatigue to pull a trigger than it is to use the entire grip muscle on that. It is not faster than a hammer tacker, but you can use it in a little bit tighter space, and it's a little bit less fatigue than using a hammer tacker. Here's why you may be able to pick some of these up used for a good deal. This is a freshly charged NiCad battery, and what we're going to run into here is, well, that gave us a good hit, but before, and that gave us a good hit. Okay, well, I was just using this thing a little while ago, and it wasn't giving me good hits. Maybe it's part of the break-in process. But I seem to be getting, it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but I seem to be getting a little better performance on it with this battery than the standard battery. Although I'd like to try and use it with a standard battery because I'm using the P108s to keep a lot of things going here that normally you just couldn't use the Ryobi tools on. But with these things, like let's say making a circular saw cut on this plywood, we get maybe 2 cuts out of a battery before it's got to be replaced. P108 would go for a while. But P300 stapler, it's okay. Seems to do what it's supposed to do. I needed a stapler, and it's a little bit expensive as Ryobi stuff goes, but it's not bad. We adjust the power here, and for brads you may turn it down a little bit, but for staples we got to turn it up all the way. And we'll go over a couple of things here in a minute. So one little trick to this when we're doing this, there's still a little rebound action with this wood, and so depending on the surface you're working with, you got to hold that tight enough. You got to hold this thing up tight to get it, or else that rebound action is going to give you a nail or a staple that didn't go in all the way. It's not so powerful that it can overcome the rebound action, especially if you're putting staples where there's not a stud. So in doing this stuff, general guideline, you want to do it on these things, right? But yeah, I just got to make sure that you press into this when you're doing it, so it's not absolutely effortless. Reloading staples, pretty simple and straightforward process. You pinch these little things in. This piece comes all the way out, so it's like a follower piece, little spring-loaded follower. It's got the little thing in there for doing a brad. So obviously it's got some limitations on the length of brads. I believe it's only going to do them up to 1.25 inches. So you got to get the bigger nailer to do larger brads. But for smaller stuff, that's fine. You know, and it's electric only. There's no air needed. You hear the air compressor in the background. That's because we're running a roofing gun here, but or the other guys are running a roofing gun. So there we are, the Ryobi P300 power stapler brad nailer. Home Depot, $69.97. I would have liked for it to have been cheaper, but I use the Ryobi system anyway. The Ryobi batteries. It seems like it's a decent tool. It's okay. I'm not sure if it's a major time saver, but it's a little bit of an effort saver. So I give it 4 stars out of 5.